My name is Dan Beck. I'm the director of LGRMS. You can see my email address below. It's dbeck@lgrms.com. And we're going to talk about GMA's property and liability, GIRMA, pool's loss analysis for 2014 to 2016. So why are we here? Again, we're going to do an overview of that data, really talk about departments, really talk about where their losses are. But ultimately speaking, we want you to be able to identify trends in order to predict future losses within your organization and hopefully the pool as a whole. We want you to use the 80-20 rule. So again, every department probably has some type of losses, but we want to identify those areas that have really 80% of the problems. We want to identify those 20% of the area that has 80% of the problems. Now, it might not quite work out that way. We might have a little bit of an issue there, but ultimately speaking, that's our goal. And the reason we want to do that, like you, like everybody else, we all have limited resources. We can't be everything to everybody. We need to be able to focus in on those areas that are having the biggest opportunity for improvement. So we need to be able to identify those things and then determine, can we have an impact within those particular areas? And if we think there's a big opportunity, and if we think we can have a big impact there, we're going to move forward with putting an action plan into place. Again, we're going to develop a process that can really control those predicted losses. Your data is the best data, but depending on your sample size, it might not be as dependable from a statistical perspective as a larger pool. So if you got less than 100 employees, more than likely you're going to have one-off incidents that might not necessarily be a trend. So the best way to predict your losses is based on a pool of insurance or a pool of losses that are of similar risks. So everybody we insure pretty much has a police department, everybody has a public works, the vast majority, and they all have the same type of risks and or losses. So unless there's a really high trend anomaly, the best thing to do is kind of focus on, for those smaller organizations, focus on the pool as a whole. And that's what we're going to do here. As I said in the beginning, we really want participation. So don't be afraid to ask a question if you have questions. At certain points in time, I'm going to stop and then pick out a couple of you to answer questions or participate in the process. But a question that you have is more than likely a question that everyone else has, and they are just scared to ask it. So be brave, step up, and ask that question. If we look at property and liability claims and costs by year, in 2014, 15, and 16, we had almost $60 million, $59 million, and almost 5,000 claims, 4,600 claims. You can see that's fairly equally distributed, although the 2009 or 2014 was 39% versus 2016, which is 31%. Usually, property and liability have a development factor, meaning that the first year of your claims, over time, is going to develop. The way this works is your adjuster will look at a claim and they will determine what that claim is going to cost on an eventual basis based on the information they know at that point in time. So if they have historical data that a motor vehicle incident cost this, they're going to put that as in the reserves, and ultimately that'll be paid out. And you'll have some that's paid and then some that's reserved. So you're looking at potentially indemnity payments, medical payments, property payments, whatever they might be related to people that are having claims against us. And then you'll have reserves of what they think. Those might be legal fees that are out there. That might be settlement costs. That might be medical costs, but that's how we get these numbers. It's the best educated guess of what those claims are going to eventually cost. And again, we do it based on the information we know at the time, and later on within the years we find out more information, and those incidents have a tendency to grow. Again, not all of those, but some of those, and the ones that do grow pretty large. So that's where the development factor comes into play. So, you know, from my perspective, We had this conversation earlier on workers' compensation. I saw some good trends in regards to number of claims. Not seeing that within the claims here. Actually seeing, you can see we're at 31% of what we were in 2015. We're at 30%. So we're actually above that number, which is not a good trend. We look at property and liability claims costs by department. Again, this is where we're trying to use that 80-20 rules. What department should we be focusing on? Again, the expectation is not that we're not going to provide any resources to these other departments. That's not the case. But really, if we're putting a lot of resources out there, these are the folks we need to focus in on with our property and liability issues. So as you can see, police, highlighted in yellow, have 39% of the claims and 43% of the dollars. And if you were in the workers' compensation call, that's very similar to what their workers' compensation losses are. Administration is the next. So this is your city clerks and your office people. 19% of claims, 33% of dollars. And we'll talk about that. That's kind of a misnomer. These might spread beyond that particular department. The next is streets and public works. 26% of claims, 9% of dollars associated with almost $5 million. Those are your big chunks. So if you look at all of those, you look at the police, you look at administration, public works, you're going to 84%, so above your 80-20. You'll see that we don't have quite as much opportunity within the administration department, though. We look at we look at the police. Again, our leading issues within police are motor vehicle incidents, MVAs, motor vehicle accidents, at almost $14 million. 80% of claims, almost, or 80% of claims. The average claim is about $9,000. False arrests at $2.3 million, at 9% of total incurred. Human resources, we see a lot of claims, specifically within GMA, law enforcement related to human resources. I initially thought we had an issue because a lot of our cities didn't have full-time HR people. We were not following procedures. Looking at least from a cursory perspective, that is not the case. We have a lot of people doing the right things. When it comes down to the root cause, though, it's really putting people in place, hiring people that might not be the best fit for our organization. So hiring is critical in regards to human resources there. You can see the next one, kind of bang, flash, flash bang. About 4% of those, $1 million. Excessive force, 4%. And then tasers and shootings down at the bottom at 1%, about $260,000. I kind of grouped those together. Although excessive force, tasers, and shootings are relatively small compared to the rest of the, we anticipate, based on kind of the cultural issues that are going on regarding national issues, that those numbers are going to go up. And we kind of put the flashbangs and the tasers and shootings all in one bucket because they come down to really use of force and making the right decisions based on that. So here are some things that we're doing. And again, it's going to be, if you participate in the presentation for workers' compensation, a lot of the same things. We are attempting to really, just like we're doing the 80-20 rule here, we're trying to do the 80-20 rule within the pool as a whole. We're trying to identify those members that have the biggest opportunity for improvement. And we're targeting those with our public safety risk consultants, really finding those departments with high motor vehicle rates and working with leadership there and doing training. We're doing the same thing with other losses and trying to develop problem-solving teams. So these teams really consist of about 6 people within a particular department. We probably 2 leaders, maybe a supervisor or manager, 4 or so frontline people. We sit down with them. We provide them basic training on how to identify issues, how to do trend analysis, how to develop action plans, and then we work with them to do analysis on their own losses and develop an action plan. Again, the only way to have long-term sustainable results from a risk reduction perspective is changing a culture. And the only way to change a culture is to get people, leaders, committed to the process and employees engaged. This is the best way to get leaders committed and employees engaged. They own the problem. they own the solution. And ultimately, it has a massive impact in regards to losses. And again, that's something we're trying to do and looking for people that want to participate in that particular process. We have some focused audit protocols we can assist with. So motor vehicle operations, we developed something. If you're having a large amount of motor vehicles, you want us to come in, we can look at your policies, we'll look at your practices, we'll look at your operation on EVOC and pursuits, but also just general distracted driving and other things. Use of force, we have, again, an audit protocol that looks at that. We have one that goes through jails. Again, that wasn't necessarily the high one on the list, but that's something we can, based on if you have losses in that area, that's something we can offer. Our driver training, again, we have 3 simulators, all manned by public safety risk consultants. Historically, we've done training on EVOC and pursuits. We want to start focusing on defensive drivers. So we're implementing, we bought new equipment, and in the mid part of 2016 or 17, we will implement that new equipment with defensive driving scenarios. So really focusing on where we're seeing our losses, rear-ending, hitting fixed objects, hitting pedestrians, things to that effect. We've developed a backing Train the Trainer course that really allows you to train your employees on how to back. Probably one of the most effective training courses we've implemented within our organization. Lots of great impact. I've seen people that couldn't back before be experts at backing after they went through this course, and it's really because they trained themselves on how to do that. Again, what we will do is we have a package. We bring some cones, we set up a course, we train you on how to conduct that, and you guys provide that training to your folks. Again, we continue to have a variety of different training courses, pursuit, EVOC, based on what your needs are. The next thing is de-escalation training with simulators. So we're borrowing a process from South Georgia, one of the locations down in South Georgia, a de-escalation training that really talks about how do you eliminate these use of force situations, how do you eliminate a lot of these altercations through verbal confrontation. And then based on that, we will have a simulator that we will train your operators on how to train your folks. So they'll have hands-on activity on reducing risk through of escalation or altercations through going through this simulator. And again, we're getting that probably in September of October of 2017. And then the last 2 things for training, human resource hiring. We did a webinar on this earlier this year. I can send that to you. I will probably do another one if you're interested in that. We're doing a personnel liability course that's coming to you. Attorneys that we use within GMA are providing that. That's a great course. We can do a lot of different things. We have HR. We have somebody that come out and do an HR audit in regards to your location or police department to help out with that, because that's such a high amount of risk within our locations. And then high-risk critical task training. We have a training that's really focused on those 12 or 14 high-risk critical tasks, whether it's pursuit or use of force, whatever it might be, that provides training to your leaders, provides training to your officers on those high-risk critical tasks, and those are things that we can provide also. I'm going to reach out and see if anybody has any questions. Just going to touch people. Anybody have any questions? Let's see if we got, pick on somebody here, so get ready. Greg Poole, are you out there? Greg Poole, are you out there?
I knew you'd pick on me.
That's good. How are you doing today, Greg?
I'm good. How about you, Dan?
Not too bad. You got any questions thus far?
No questions.
No questions? Anything you want to point out that I'm missing?
Nothing that you've missed. Do you want me to speak a moment about Train the Trainer?
Yeah, talk about that, because you guys did that. That would be great.
Yeah, everybody, again, I'm Greg Poole with the City of Griffin, and I think we're the first to debut the Train the Trainer backing course. If not, I'll be disappointed. But anyway, well, last week we had some of the LGRMS trainers out working with our people. It was a good time of learning how to back properly. We all think we know how to do that, and that's such an easy thing, but there are definitely methods to do it better. And we, LGRMS came out, trained about 14 of us in a classroom setting with about 20 to 25 minutes of a classroom setting, and then we actually went out and set up what I kind of call a backing obstacle course with about 5 different backing maneuvers, and it was took us into about 2.5 days where we were trained, and then the last day we brought in employees from different departments from our city and used them as guinea pigs, so to speak, about 20 of them, so we could practice training our own people. And it went over really well. I highly recommend it. A lot of hard work goes in on both sides of it, but it's certainly definitely worth the time.
Thank you, Greg, for those comments. I appreciate it. And again, definitely something that I think it doesn't, we'll talk about motor vehicle incidents. That's not, we do have a lot of backing claims, a lot of backing motor vehicle incidents, not necessarily our biggest ticket item, but it's definitely something that we need to improve on. So again, thank you so much for taking the resources you needed to resolve that issue, Greg. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to put you on mute again. Mia Chang, I think, wrote, I think that's what I get. I hope I didn't butcher her name. Can you send us your slides from today? And I'm going to see yes, and it says my. I'm sorry. Is that correct, Mai? So I'll send out the slide presentation, and I'll also send out a recording of this so you guys can listen to it with your family and your friends and thrill everyone with that. So let's continue going on. Thank you so much, everybody, for your questions and comments. I appreciate that. Administration by cause. You know, you look at this, 62% of total incurred, almost $12 million, is associated with property. That's the biggest opportunity there. And again, from my perspective, that's really going to be difficult for us to control. That's a lot of weather-related issues. And again, although my daughters feel I can control the weather, I really don't. So don't tell them. The next thing on this list in the blue is PBE. That's public buildings and equipment. This is more of a general liability-related issue. Slips and falls on sidewalks. Anything where our buildings or equipment have harmed somebody and they have some claim, other than motor vehicle incidents, which is the next one. Officials, again, this is potentially we've done something from a process perspective, and it affects somebody. Human resources, about 66% of claims within administration are human resources. This is something we can assist you with too, doing training, doing a variety, but from my perspective, it all comes down to hiring the right people. Public streets and public works by cause. Again, PBE is the biggest one, 39%. So again, general liability issues. So we see about $2 million related to that. So making sure we're doing inspections of our parks and making sure we're doing inspections of our roads and sidewalks and other things to ensure that they are meeting expectations. And we can help you when we come and do our on-site visits with that. Motor vehicle incidents, again, 32% or about $1.7 million. That's an opportunity there, and we're going to talk about that. Road conditions. You know, we do a lot of training on road conditions. We're actually doing a road liability, and we focus on that when we go. We put a lot of emphasis, and I think we've been successful. You know, it looks at only 3% of the claims. We still have some there. Debris. This is flying rocks from our trucks, flying rocks from our mowers. Those are within that. And again, if you look at those, that's about 75% of all the total incurred there. When we're looking at focused issues, again, we can do our member survey guide, come out and conduct assessments of some of your public building and equipment to ensure you're meeting needs, so we reduce the risk there. We do have a road's condition, a design process, we can look at that. We have driver training where we do more of the National Safety Council, DDC, driver training. We have the backing train the trainer course we talked about. We can help out with that. Other training, again, we have a regional training coming up that's roads liability that you can look at LGRMS.com and look at the website under our training opportunities. That's there, and that'll give you all the different aspects that we provide in regards to roads liability and heavy equipment. So we have not completed that yet, but we've done some training last year. We packaged it. We purchased a bunch of different videos, and we packaged a bunch of different things together. We're going to do the same thing with heavy equipment. So purchasing different backhoe and road grader and heavy equipment that we see having risks not only from a property and liability but also from a workers' compensation, and that will make that available to all members based on a request basis. And it'll be packaged in a way that you can do that with your folks. So I have a question here. How long is the NFCDC training, and how many at a time? So the training is supposed to go about 7.5 hours depending on the trainer. You might go at 6, you might go at 7.5, depending on who that is. And we probably don't want to go too much over 40 people. We have a minimum of 15 we want to have in the class. That's pretty much the requirements there. Great questions. I appreciate that. I'm going to delete those. Again, for parks and recs, again, we have a focused audit on playgrounds, pools, and parks. We've actually seen a lot of losses within pools, especially some major losses there. So that's an opportunity. We also offer driver training and backing training for the Parks and Recs group, because we see that as an opportunity with motor vehicles. When we look at, let's see, this is all GMA property and liability claims within motor vehicles. This is what it really looks at. So about $16 or $17 million, 29% of all of our property and liability claims are motor vehicle related. That's our biggest opportunity. And it really comes down to distracted driving. It's being more aware we're out on the road. When we look at departments with the biggest opportunity for motor vehicle operation, 73% of our motor vehicle operation claims are within police, 10% streets and roads, and then electrical distribution. So about 83% are just within streets and public roads. That's where we want to put most of our resources, and that's where we have our biggest opportunity for improvement. So that's the presentation. Again, we want you to review your losses. We want you to review our losses, the loss presentation, and I'll send this to you. You can take it. The smaller pool you have, the less likely you're going to be able to predict trends. So numbers say something. They don't say the whole thing. We want you to focus on real trends. We want you to focus in on things that you can have an impact, but you identify those predictable loss trends that you can have an impact. Ultimately speaking, leadership, leadership, leadership. Your leaders need to know where your issues are. Your leaders need to be educated on this is the opportunity that exists out there. This is the impact of our workers' compensation claims. This is the impact of our property and liability claims. They need to take ownership. They need to really understand where those issues are. They need to own those issues, and then they need to make an action plan. Again, motor vehicles, motor vehicles, motor vehicles. Those are the big things within property and liability where we see a lot of issues. Developing an action plan. Again, I can say I'm committed. I can say I'm a big believer in safety, but if I don't own that action plan, if I'm not part of developing it, if I don't sign off on it, if I don't ensure that action plan is being developed and implemented, then I'm not really a committed leader from my perspective. You need to have programs and policies. What's going wrong within your culture? You need to have quality training, and ultimately you need to have accountability. Those are the big parts of that action planning process that we're looking for. So I'm going to open it up, and we're going to see if we have any questions. And if we don't have any questions, I'm going to try and see if anybody wants to just chat with me. I'm going to talk to Jody Palmer. Jody Palmer, are you out there?
Yeah, I just joined. I was having technical difficulties.
No problem. First of all, Jody, I'm going to send out a recording of this to everybody so you'll be able to catch up on anything you missed. But on the stuff that you did here, any questions, any comments?
No, but I'm looking forward to seeing your full report.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, I'm going to put you back on mute. Let's see if I can see if Sandy Beach, are you out there? Sandy Beach, are you out there? Let's see, her noise was out there, but she wasn't. Randy Wright, are you out there? Randy Wright, are you out there?
Yep, we're here.
How are you doing, Randy?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. Any comments, questions from the presentation thus far?
Got anything? Nope, I think we're good.
Good, good. Thank you guys for participating. Again, Randy, I still have you on the phone. So if you want other information on training or you want a loss analysis for your own member, what do you do?
What?
If you want more, if you want your own specific loss analysis, what do you do?
We contact your website.
Or you can just send me an email. That's the best thing at dbeck@lgrms.com. Let's say I have a question on training and other things. What do you do? You can contact me. You can contact your assigned loss control consultant, and they'll help you out with those too. But either one, just email me if you have questions or concerns or you have any suggestions on how we can make things better. We want to do that, and we're looking for your assistance and feedback on how we can better serve and support our membership. So thank you so much, Randy. I appreciate that. Sorry for putting you on the spot. With that being said, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. I thank you guys so very much. Enjoy the cold weather as it lasts. I'm sure it'll be 98 and 90% humidity soon. So talk to you later. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day and a great weekend.